Alright, so I'm going to show people today how to get a silhouetted image into your logo for laser burning on the butcher block project. So first thing I'm going to do here is go and at least put the new file up that's going to be the size of my butcher block. So I'm going to create a new file. Now, in a previous video, I measured my butcher block to be 18 inches wide and 13 inches high. So this is our width along here. The x-axis and the y-axis up and down is 13. Thickness doesn't matter for this because we are not going to be having a concern with the z-axis, only that the laser will go up and down where needed. It's going to be flat as it's actually lasering. Our datum of the XY is going to be lower left corner, and we want to make sure that it is inches that we're dealing with. The rest doesn't matter, so we're going to click OK. Now, before we go any further, we have to have some kind of silhouetted image in order to work on this. And so what I'm going to do is just minimize VCarve, and I'll be on the internet here, and I'm going to go and create a new tab. And for my search, I'm going to type in silhouetted bird. I'm just using bird as an example. It could be anything, really. You could do, a tree or really anything that's out there, silhouetted. It has to be a silhouette because we're going to create an outline of the image, so it has to look something like this. So there's a few images that have popped up that the internet has deemed acceptable. As you can see here, there's more stuff down here. But again, it has to be a silhouette. So technically speaking, for ease of transition from the internet onto our VCarve software, we want something simple. I'm going to just pick this image here. This isn't too bad. Actually, let's do this one here. We'll do this. It says free vectors, but we're really not concerned about that. So I'm going to go ahead and select this image with the two birds. It's a little more interesting. And I'm going to try to do this an easy way. Hopefully this will work. I'm going to right click on that, and I want to copy the image that you see here. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that image, and I need to go and I need to start the paint program. So down here I'm going to do paint. And there we go. So we'll let that load, and then I'm going to go ahead and Control V, V as in Victor, and there's my image. So my image is now in paint. Before I do anything else, I am going to just click down here in the gray area, because that's going to select the workspace. That's this white stuff that you see here. And I'm going to drag this over so that it's kind of up against the image as tightly as possible. All right, so that's that. All right, so all I did was I clicked out in the gray area, I dragged my workspace up. So I'm just kind of cropping it down a little bit, if you will. Now, my goal is to save this. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Save As. And I want to put this in Downloads. And then I'm going to switch this to JPEG. So right here, I want to select a JPEG. There are different JPEG files, extensions, but we want it to be a JPEG, and I'm going to call this birds because that's what it is. Okay, so there we go, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save and it's going to put it in the downloads. All right, so now I'm done. I'm done with paint. I'm going to get rid of paint, close that down. I'm going to close down my internet tab with the silhouette birds. There's other suggestions here, so you could use that. You could use that. Stuff that has a logo over it, you can't use. So anything with a logo, you can't use. They want you to pay for it, so it's not free. So we need to find images that are free. But yeah, there you go. There's some free images here, and then there's also some not free images they want you to pay for. So Shutterstock here has their logo over it. Pinterest, it looks like there might be something in there. I'm not entirely sure, but there's too many birds in that anyway. So I'm just going to close that tab down, and now I can go back to VCarve. So now that I'm back in here, I'm going to go ahead and place that image of the birds, and we're going to see if it works. So we're not out of the woods yet. We may have to go back and select a new image, but we're going to see what happens with this one. So in order to get this to actually load into our thing, our design here, we're going to go to this little file that says import bitmap. For tracing. And what's kind of funny about this is there's a picture of a bird in the file, and I think that's probably why I chose birds. So we're going to click that button, and we're going to go to downloads, and we're going to download or transfer over, if you will, this birds file that I created in Paint. So I'm going to double click that, and we're going to see what it looks like. Oh, okay, so that's a perfect size. We can downsize that image, which is going to be really cool. So I will downsize my bird image. It's a little bit bigger than I want it to be, and that's awesome. If it's a lot smaller than that, like let's say that it's a quarter of the size, you're probably going to want to find something new, because the issue with this is when I start to increase the size of it, let me select the size and we'll bring it up, it might get pixelated. So you can see here it's starting to get a little fluffy on the outside edges of where the birds are, a little pixelated here. This is actually a pretty good quality image, but the bigger I make it, the more pixelated it becomes. Now we can deal with some of that, but it's better off if the image is a little bit smaller or a little bit larger to begin with, and the larger it is, the better. You can always shrink the big images down. They might load and take up all of this screen here, but you can always shrink it down. For this one, I think I'm going to put the birds in the upper left corner. So we're going to put them in here, and one of the things I want to do is I want to get the placement of the birds in a good place now, so that I can start manipulating this image and get it so that it will create the outline so I can burn it. So one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to measure from the larger bird's wings, and I want about, for my design, and yours might be different, but for my design I want about 1 inch on both the horizontal and vertical. So I'm just going to go and take a quick look and see what that looks like. So I'm going to click here for dimensions, and we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to click here and then draw straight up to the edge, and I'm looking for something in the inch range. So I'm not quite there yet with that. And let's measure from the tip of the bird's wing to the vertical section, and my eyes are good, right? I'm 0.7, 0.7. I think I'm going to move the birds in just a little bit more here. So I'm going to close that, delete these measurements, and going to grab my birds again. So I click twice, and I'm just going to move them down and over again. And the goal here is to get within 1 inch. I'm not concerned about it being exactly 1 inch. I don't have the time to mess around with that. As you can see, I'm still not quite there in that direction. Let's see the other direction. So this is what I do. If I want to get things close, that's close enough. 0.95 is okay. But I got to bring the birds down a little. I'm going to leave those dimensions actually and bring my birds down and over. And let's bring them down just a bit more that way. And then let's see what we get. I left the dimensions just so I kind of have a reference point. Let's remeasure that. It's really important to measure things a bunch of times. That way, there we go, 0.98. I'm not going to mess with that. This might be a little over 1 inch now. Nope, 0.936, so I'm going to go with that. That's close enough for what I need here. So we're going to go ahead and delete those. And my bird placement is going to be right there. So you can kind of see where they're going to be. Pretty cool. Looks pretty cool. Now, it's not going to be a filled-in image like this, just so everybody's aware. It's going to trace the birds to the best of its ability. And so you'll have a silhouetted outline instead of just the filled-in black and white situation. So now that I've got my birds where I want them, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here into this corner by using the wheel on the mouse. And I'm going to select my image. And then I'm going to click the bird. So over here it says trace bitmap or fit vectors to selected bitmap, and that's what we need to do, because right now if I were to go and make a toolpath for this, it's not going to do anything because it doesn't see any vectors. And I know that that looks like a vector, but it is just the outline of the image. So all you have here is an image. So click the bird, and then what you're going to see is it's going to fade that bitmap or that JPEG down, which is fine. We don't need it to be super dark for what we're doing here. And the next thing we're going to do is we're just looking at the black and white image, because again, we're not doing color. There's nothing of color here. We don't have the ability to do any of that stuff, so we're going to stick with a tracing of black and white, leaving that right where it is. Our corner fit, we are going to start with it 100% tight, and then our noise filter is going to be left at 1 pixel for now, and then our bitmap fading we're going to leave at whatever it's set to. So mine's set to about 50%, and we're going to go ahead and click preview. So all this stuff kind of gets left as it is. If your computer has a different setting, set it to corner fit 100%. Noise filter can be at 1 right now, which you can see it says 10 pixels. So we're just going to hit preview, and there's our outline. So what you see now is an outline around the bitmap, or JPEG I should say, that we've brought in. It's not super tight, but it's about as good as it's going to get. Now if you don't like the way that it looks, like for instance over here, the bird's head and the body, it's a little bit jagged just because there is some pixelation. Now we can start messing around a little bit with how this actually looks. So you can increase your noise filter. I'm going to go all the way up to 10, and if you hit preview, you may or may not notice anything. For this one here, there really wasn't a whole lot of noise that it filtered out, so I'm not going to worry about that. I can even put that back to 2. I believe it was set to 2. You hit the preview button, nothing really changes. Let's do this though. We're going to deal with our corner fit. I'm going to reduce that to 50%, and I'm going to keep an eye on this body of the bird and the head here. Let's hit the preview button, and as you can see, it smoothed that out quite a bit. So let me go back. Here's a before, hit the preview, kind of pixelated and pointy. I reduced that down to 50%. I hit the preview button, and it kind of smoothed things out, and I like that a lot. I'm actually going to reduce my corner fit down to 0 just to see, and it didn't make much of a difference at that point. So I'm going to put it back at 50%, and again, you can mess around with this until you get something that you like the looks of. So for my image, I'm going to go with this being a 50% corner fit, and noise filters at 2, and bitmap fading, let's just drop that, let's just bring that up. We're going to bring that up to about 60%, just so that I can see the actual bitmap image, and I'm just looking it over before I approve all this stuff. All right, I'm going to hit apply. We're good. Close the window. And so what you have now is you have the image itself, which is this darker piece, and then you have the outline of the image, and we don't need the actual JPEG image. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to use the delete key on my keyboard, and there you have it. So you have a silhouetted image now of the birds on your butcher block. As you can see, there they are. Okay, and at this point, if you wanted to, you could surround that with shape vectors. So the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a circle around the birds. I'm going to apply that for now. I can change I'm going to create that, sorry, I should say. I'm going to change that if I need to, but I'm just going to decided that a circle would look nice around them. Now I can go ahead and drag that circle to make it fit. We'll move that over here, and that looks pretty good. I think we're going to go with that. And all I'm doing is I'm kind of eyeballing where it hits here, and then how much space above and below the birds. Let's move that up just a bit. Do I like that better? I don't. So I'm going to put it back to where it was. You can even undo that, edit, undo, if you don't like where something was moved. And there we go. Oh, I got to delete this one, so I'm going to click that circle and delete that. And now I'll zoom out and see exactly what that looks like. Okay. All right, I'm happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and create the toolpath. So I've got my shape, and you don't have to put a shape on it. You can simply use the birds here. But this is about as much as I'm going to add to it, again, to keep things simple and quick. So I'm going to go to toolpath, tab, and to get this lasered on my board, I'm going to click on the quick engraving toolpath. And I want to make sure that it says engrave. If it doesn't, go to select, and you should see your engraving tool. We're going to make sure, you have to do this anyway, make sure that your engraving tool is spindle speed is 16,000 RPMs. It's not going to spin. That's the power of the laser. Feed rate of 5 inches per minute and plunge rate of 5 inches per minute as well. So make sure that those three things are set under your engraving tool. We're going to click OK. We're going to make sure that it is set to outline only. Okay. And then from here, I'm going to select my vectors. So I'm just going to window around and click them. You're going to see that all of this is selected at once. The circle is dashed and the birds are solid. That's fine, not a problem. All of this is going to get lasered, so we're not doing two separate tool paths, different tool paths, I should say. And for this one here, you can set it to CNC Piranha 3D contour, or yours may be set to CNC Shark USB 3D contour. Either one of those is fine, as long as it says USB 3D contour inch tap. I'm just going to leave it with Piranha. Both of those files will work with our CNC, and I'm going to call this my logo. So I'm going to call it last name and logo, and I'm going to hit calculate, and it shows where the laser path will be. And then if I want to see a similar to what it's going to look like in real life preview, you can hit the 3D view tab, and that shows you your bird logo with the circle over or around it, I should say. So there you have it. That will show you kind of what it's going to look like after it's been burned into the board. So that looks good to me. And I'll go back to my new tab here. And then if I'm happy with what I've got, I'm going to go ahead and click Save Toolpath to File. You would go to your drive, and then you would save your tap file. That's going to be the tap file, so that would save on your network drive. Make sure you go to your network drive, click Save. I'm not going to save because I already have a file there, but you would click Save. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go to File, and if you click Save As, you need to bring up your network drive, find where you saved your stuff, and then you're going to also call that last name and logo. And then once that is in place, you're going to click Save as well to save your Carve file, or CRV. So you got two files you're going to save, a tap file and a CRV file. Once you have those saved, there we go, then you would go ahead and upload both of those files to Google Classroom, and then I can grab them, add the post processor for the laser, which I don't believe your machines have, and be able to burn those into your board. Now, it's important that you make sure you name your file with your last name and then followed by logo. So please follow that process when you go to save both your CRV file, which is this, and the tap file, which is when you click this button here. So you need both files, and then you'll drop those off in Google Classroom. So hopefully this helps if you are interested in doing a silhouetted image instead of initials for your board in terms of a logo design. Okay.